Sam here from Sheridan Computers, and if you're trying to set up PPPoE on OPNsense and you can't find the PPPoE option on the WAN interface anymore, you're not going mad, it was moved. A lot of older guides, including some of my own, show PPPoE being configured directly on the WAN. But on modern versions of OPNsense, that's no longer how it works. Instead, PPPoE is now created as a point-to-point device, and then that device is assigned to the WAN. So in this video, I'm going to show you 3 ways to set up PPPoE for UK Fibre BT connections, using the Setup Wizard, doing it manually, and doing it manually when your ISP also requires VLAN tagging.
Sheridan Computers, IT, Communications, Support.
Just quickly on why this changed. PPPoE isn't actually part of the WAN interface itself. It's a virtual point-to-point link that runs on top of a physical network card or sometimes on top of a VLAN. And older versions of OPNsense treated PPPoE as just another WAN setting, but internally that caused problems with routing, IPv6 and multi-WAN setups. So by moving into the devices section, OPNsense now actually matches how FreeBSD builds a network stack. The physical interface, an optional VLAN on top of that, and then PPP on top of that. It is more correct technically, even if it does mean a couple of extra steps for simple home connections. So the key thing to remember is this: the WAN interface is no longer the physical network port. WAN becomes a PPPoE device, and that's what firewall rules, NAT, and routing are actually using. So first I'm going to show you the easiest option, and that is using the Setup Wizard. This is perfect for home users on BT Fibre who just want to get online quickly. Let's look at the first option then, which is to use the wizard, and that's what you're presented with when you first install OPNsense. You can also always run the wizard after OPNsense has been installed. So let me pull the wizard up. So if I go to System, Configuration and Wizard. So this is what you get when you start OPNsense. So click Next, set your host name, your domain, your time zone. You can leave the rest of the settings. Type, you want to set to PPPoE. Don't bother setting the MTU or the MSS. There's no need to do that. So for the PPPoE username, this is the username to access the service. So if we're using the fibre from BT and you've got the home version, that's going to be BT Home Hub at btbroadband.com. Then the password for BT, you can use anything. I've just stuck BT in there. You can leave these. I'm just going to untick bog on because I'm using a test PPPoE server for this. So I will get a CG NAT address, but normally you'd leave that ticked. So click Next. Change your IP address for your LAN if you need to. Set that up. Your root password. And I'm just going to apply that. So congratulations, OPNsense is now configured. So let's continue to the dashboard. And you can see I have got an address. As I say, you'll get an actual IP address and not a CG NAT one from BT. Now just to check this, we can go to Interfaces, Diagnostics, and then Ping. And then just use Google for this, so 8.8.8.8, apply, and that's fine. So that's working. So what this does, if we, in interfaces, under assignments, you can see LAN is set to our physical interface, and then we've got WAN. Now you'll notice this is set to PPPoE1 broadband. It's not actually set to our physical WAN interface, which is this. So the wizard does handle all this for you. And if we go to devices, and then point to point, you can see it's created the PPPoE entries here for us. And if we need to edit the usernames or anything like that, you can do that here. So under assignments, this is not even assigned. So say the wizard does handle all this for you. So that's the easiest way to do it. So the wizard does work and it creates a PPPoE point-to-point device and it assigns it to the WAN for you. But if anything ever breaks, or if you're working in more advanced setups, then you really need to know what the wizard is actually doing behind the scenes. So next I'm going to go through the same setup, but we'll do it manually, step by step. Let's look at the manual configuration. So if you can use the wizard, you're better off doing. But I'll walk you through the manual configuration. So we're going to want to go into Interfaces and Assignments. So you can see I've got my LAN assigned to a physical interface and my WAN assigned to a physical interface. Now I'm just going to go into the WAN and I'm going to make sure the configuration types are set to none. And save that. That's just to make sure nothing interferes on the WAN. Then we're going to disable the interface and click Apply. Now what we need to do is go into devices and create our point-to-point, so PPPoE connection. This is where it differs a bit between this version and older versions of OPNsense. So if we go to point-to-point, create a new one. Link type is PPPoE, and you want your WAN interface, so your physical interface, the bit that's connected to your ONT. Put username in. I use the BT Business Hub ones here, so BT Business Hub at business.btclick.com. If you're using BT, you can just put BT or anything in for the password and then hit save. So this creates our PPPoE interface. Next, we want to go into assignment. And here you can see we've got our WAN assigned, and we need to change this to this PPPoE connection here. So it's not the physical interface, your PPPoE one, and hit save. And this will be disabled when you create it, so we need to go and create that. So just enable it. This, you want block private networks, and you want to block bog-on networks. I'm going to untick this one because I know I'll get a CG NAT because I'm using a test PPPoE server, but usually if you're going to get a proper IP address, leave that ticked. Click save and apply your changes. So now our assignments, you can see, are right. And if we go into lobby, dashboard, we have got the gateway, but we've got no announcements. It probably just wants a refresh because obviously the connection can take a few minutes to connect. And that's it. We're good. If you have any problems setting up PPPoE manually, if you go into System, Log Files, and General, you'll be able to see all the PPP entries here. And you can just put PPP or PPPoE to filter them, just to make it easy to read. And you should be able to see any problems quite easily here. To check, we can go to Interface, Diagnostics, and then Ping. And just put Google in 8.8.8.8 and hit apply. So you can see 0% packet loss. You've also got traceroute if you need traceroute for diagnostics, but that's pretty much all you need to do. So most fibre connections don't actually require VLAN tagging anymore. But there's still some ISPs and some wholesale circuits that still require a VLAN, like VLAN 101, before PPPoE will work. In that case, the stack becomes your physical WAN interface, then the VLAN, and then PPPoE on top of that. So in this final section, I'm going to show you how to build that full chain manually. Now I'm going to cover PPPoE setup if your ISP requires a VLAN. So what we're going to do is go into Interfaces, Assignments, and you can see we've got LAN assigned to a physical interface and WAN assigned to a physical interface. So I'm going to go into the WAN. I'm going to set it to none and none for the configuration types and save that. And this is just to make sure nothing interferes anywhere. Then we're going to disable the WAN interface. So save that, apply the changes. Now if we go into assignments, I've still got it assigned at the moment, but it is disabled. Okay, so now we need to create the devices. So go into device. The first thing we're going to do is create the VLAN. So if we go to devices and VLAN, create a new one. And I'm going to call it VLAN 0.101. So it's got to be VLAN 0. something. And then choose the physical interface this is going to be attached to. So it's a WAN interface. And the tag, I'm going to call it 101. And just hit save. And apply those changes. So that's created our VLAN interface on the WAN. So now we need to create our PPPoE interface. So if we go to point, create a new one. And we're going to select PPPoE. And for this, we want the VLAN interface, not the physical interfaces. We want the VLAN interface. So we're going to choose that. Give it a description. Put the username in that's been given to you by your ISP. So OPNsense. I think I set this to test 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to hit save. So we've got our PPPoE interface. And that's now sitting on our VLAN 101. So now we need to go back into assignments. Where we've got the WAN, we want to change this to our PPPoE on VLAN 101. So don't select VLAN 101, select the PPPoE interface that's listening on it. Hit save. So it's red at the moment because it's disabled. So we'll go into that and enable it. And depending on the type of IP address that you get, if it's behind CG NAT, untick that. It's unlikely to be a RFC 1918 and click save. And then apply. Then we'll go back into assignments. So just so you get your head around this and it's right, we've got our WAN interface, which is now the PPPoE interface, which is assigned to VLAN 101. And hopefully I get an IP address. Yes, I do. The announcements haven't loaded yet. I'm guessing we just need to refresh the dashboard. Yeah. So now we've got our WAN interface that's set on PPPoE. So just so you get your head around that. Assignments, the assignment for the WAN wants to be PPPoE. And to do that, we need to set our VLAN up first and then create the point-to-point device and add it to the VLAN. And then under assignments, you set it there. So that should be everything you need. Now again, we can go to diagnostics, ping. We use quad 9 this time. Apply. You can see that's going. Ignore this is the last one. But you can see this is going, and we've got 0% packet loss again. So that should be... Just stop that, sorry, and clear it. So that's how to set it up if you need to set it up with a VLAN. So whether you're using the wizard, you're setting things up manually, or you're dealing with VLAN requirements from your ISP, the most important thing to understand is that PPPoE now lives in the point-to-point devices section and is assigned to the WAN. And once that clicks, the rest of the setup makes a lot more sense. So I wanted to do this video covering PPPoE on OPNsense because a lot of the information is just outdated and you won't get it working. So if you found this video useful, please give it a like. If you'd like to see more OPNsense videos, consider subscribing to the channel. If you hit that bell, you'll get notified as they are released. If you need any OPNsense consulting, head across to SheridanComputers.com and we'll be glad to accommodate you. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.